America. We were living in the east by the Nile River, living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So my friend, it's easy to tell, white man heaven is a black man hell.
Either call y'all, it's easy to tell, white man heaven is a black man hell.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Master Farad Muhammad said 6 words to us, and these were the 6 most powerful words that he spoke. He said, accept your own and be yourself. Accept your own. The Caucasians who brought our fathers into slavery desired to take us away from our own people, our own culture, our own religion, our own God, our own language. So we have grown up in America away from our own mind, away from our own selves, and so we have been actually indoctrinated with an alien mentality.
10,000 fearless men, because we're going to have to challenge the things that are destroying our community. So this ain't no punk time. This ain't no temple time, mosque time, or church time. All the singing and shouting and preaching is over. Get in them streets now, block by block. We're going to have to clean it up. The airwaves is not enough. The television screen is not enough. You got to put boots on the ground who are trained and are willing to make the sacrifice of life itself to see our community made a decent place to live.
Attention. Drill.
Soldiering is a part of the Nation of Islam, and it readies all of us to obey the commands of God. Now some will ask, well, why military drill? Because this is what produces the camaraderie.
Facebook and Instagram thought that they could ban Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan,
but in reality, they can't, because he already lives in us and millions of others.
قل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master Fard Muhammad, the one true and living God, to whom praise is due forever. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his messenger. Peace, family, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of WHID-FM. WHID-FM is your personal platform where those of us striving to follow the life-giving and life-saving teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gather right here in this virtual meeting place to answer that most critical question: what has Islam done for me? It's Sunday, November 3rd, and at this time, we're going to turn it over to that dynamic co-host of WHID-FM, our sister, Janine Muhammad, who is a superstar student here in the ministry at Muhammad Mosque number 6 under the leadership of our beloved brother, student Imam Abu Salam Muhammad. Sister Janine.
Assalamu alaikum, family, and thank you again for joining us for another great episode of WHID-FM. We thank you for tuning in each and every week to hear the stories from our various guests about what Islam has done and continuing to do for them. Tonight, we are highly honored and abundantly blessed to receive a valuable commodity in our nation as our guest today. The Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that we should give flowers while we live. So on behalf of the believers, we extend a virtual bouquet of roses as a small token of our love and appreciation to our beautiful and beloved guest tonight, Sister Roberta. Sister Roberta is a pioneer, and we stand on her shoulders. She is registered in 1971 in Richmond, Virginia at Muhammad Mosque number 24 under the leadership of student minister Tracy Muhammad. She holds an Associate Applied Science degree and is a licensed practical nurse and a caregiver. She recently graced the airways of the Fajr prayer line on 2 occasions, sharing some of her testimony about her journey in the Nation of Islam. So we'd like to welcome Sister Roberta onto the show tonight. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam, sis. Yes, ma'am. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, praise be to Allah. I wish you all, I just want to greet you all in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. When I did my testimony on the Al Nur prayer, I did it in 2 parts. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try to get all of it in 1 set.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'm going to start from here. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I came from a family of 5. I'm the middle child. There's something about that middle child. But I came from a 1-parent family. So my father left home when I was about 5. And he was an alcoholic. And my mother just did the best she could. But we grew up. I went to church. I did that. I was in the junior choir and I was a pretty good student in school. Well, I was actually raised in the 60s. I was registered Muslim in 1971. I graduated high school in 1969. So I was growing up. I grew up in the 60s, and in 1960 I was 9. 1969 I was 18. So I grew up in the 60s.
Wow.
And I had no problem. Accepting Islam when I heard it. But as a matter of fact, I didn't. The brothers used to come in our neighborhood and with the Muhammad speak.
Mm-hmm.
And they would ask around if anybody wanted to go. Well, we had one brother in our neighborhood who had got in some trouble. He was in prison, and he was telling everybody when he'd call home, he'd say, go to the temple. That's what it was called back then. Go to the temple. They're talking some good stuff. Y'all got to hear. But anyway, when the brothers came through, once or twice weeks, I think 2 or 3 people went. But other people stopped, but I kind of kept going. I liked it. But I was young, and I didn't know who to really tell. My mother, worked all the time, and I was a middle child. I was kind of quiet. But what I heard at the mosque, at that age, what I heard at the mosque was so powerful. But I had to hold it in. For a while. And if I mentioned it to somebody, they didn't pay it much attention. It was like it just didn't matter. but it meant so much to me. But during the 60s, that was a time of a lot of social and political unrest. I mean, the TV was full of struggling. They were sicking dogs on people, and they were beating people out, people with batons, and it was just terrible. It was we everybody didn't have a TV at that time, and I remember the news used to come on in the evening time, and somebody said, "Well, let's look at it on the news." And at that young age, it was very taxing on my mind. I always wondered why in the world would they be treating us like that? And I was, taking myself as an example. What in the world have we done to these people that they hate us so much? But anyway, during that time, it was just a lot of racial unrest. People were just doing all kinds of, I think the Caucasians at that time were doing all kinds of LSD, and a lot of drugs were going on. And the music at that time was really, really good. Look, we had James Brown, Say It Loud. I think the Messenger, and when I say the Messenger, I'm talking about the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And first, we called him the Messenger, and that's the way I, refer to him. So the Messenger, he came out, so I think they were singing. I know Curtis Mayfield. They were from Chicago, so evidently Curtis Mayfield came out with, it was a song he came out, We People Who Are Darker Than Blue. He came out with some very soulful, conscious music. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? And James Brown, he was talking about Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Even Nina Simone, well, she was a little older than we, but my sister used to like music, and I remember her bringing some Nina Simone in the house sometimes. We used to listen to all kinds of music. At that time, you used to have albums or 45s. And my sister used to go to D.C., and anything that the music came out first in D.C., and then it came to Virginia. And she used to get the music. But I remember her bringing something home one time. We heard Nina Simone Young and Roberta Flack. We heard them. We heard a lot of people, way on. But during the 60s, the music was powerful. It was in tune with the time. It was in tune with the time. And everything was moving. It was moving. So when I went to the mosque, well, during that time, I've got to tell you, because it was during this time that I was 15, and if you had a little boyfriend, you snuck around. So what I did was I snuck around, and I got pregnant, and I was at 15, and I had an abortion at 15, and I have to talk about that abortion because it had an effect on my whole life, and so it's a very important event. Even though Allah has forgiven me for that. And I wanted to read something out of the Quran about that, because I went in a state of depression after that. I was 15, and when my 16, I went back to school. I finished high school. I was going to the 11th grade. I went back to the 11th grade, and I finished my 12th. So I finished school, on time. But my conscience wasn't clear. I felt guilty. I felt depressed. I was feeling a lot of things. But when I read this in the Quran, and this is from Surah 16, Ayat 119, and it says, "And surely thou, Lord, for those who do evil in ignorance, then turn about and make amends, surely their Lord after that is forgiving, merciful." I always thought that Allah forgave me for that, and I put it in the back of my mind, because He did forgive me for that. And so I went on with my life. But when I went in the nation, when I went through that little couple of years of depression, I was coming out of it. I was 18. I was in high school. And so I was ready to maybe, go in the flow. But those birth control pills I was doing that time. And birth control pills never agreed with me. They would make you this and do all in between and everything. But I had I had came into the nation. Look, I must tell you this. It didn't take me long to write my letter when I came. I think I told the sister about 6 months. I went to the mosque, and that was when the brothers would come and pick us up on Sunday. You put your name on a list, and the brothers would come and pick you up. And so this was on Sundays. I think I did like 6 months, maybe less. I wrote my letter, and right away I got my ex. I got things that move. I wrote my letter one time, and say then I had started like back, and I was 18. I just have to be truthful about it.
Yes, ma'am.
I had started, dating, and when I missed, I lived with two other sisters, because when I first came in, my mother was still cooking. She was cooking pork and all, and I asked her in at the mosque, and I ended up living with two other Muslim sisters. So that's where I got. But while I was there, I missed, and my mentions, and I couldn't. I was getting scared, and I happened to tell a sister that was with me, because one month went by, then another, and then and I said I gotta tell somebody, but it got to our captain, and so I went to the captain, and they gave me a year out. But actually, I was not pregnant. I thought I was pregnant, but I wasn't. But I got a year out. So right when I got, in, I got out. But that was all right. That was in the early 70s. So I got a year out, and it gave me time enough to really think about. Because, really what I heard when I really came in was the black man is God and the white man is the devil. But I think I overlooked you got to get rid of your boyfriend. I think I really overlooked that. But when I think about it, it was about cleaning up. It was about cleaning up the whole being. That was just something I was kind of slow on doing. But I had to get a year out for that, and that was okay, because it gave me time to figure out what did I want. What did I want? So that little affair wasn't anything, no way, anyway. There's nothing hot and heavy. So I chose the Nation of Islam, and that's where I came back to after my year. But during that year, I think, I gotta say this, I can't miss this, because I'm trying to think of the year. The messenger was in Chicago, and we left from Richmond on a bus to see him in Chicago. And this was in the early 70s, and I'm trying to think of whether I was processing or if I had actually got my exit at the time. But I do know that I saw the messenger in Chicago, and it was like seeing God. I can't really explain what I saw. I always thought when he came on the stage, the messenger was not a big man, he was a small man. And he came in and he had something that was like something gold. It looked like a halo was around him. And he had a fez on. Diamonds were just, it looked like light was just flickering all over the auditorium. It was a feeling that almost touched my soul. When his voice was real slow and a little bit, he said, Assalamu alaikum. And then my tears just started coming down my face. I said, wow. That's when I knew I was in something big. I don't know what, because my mind, I was still young at Islam. I don't know what, but this was big, and I knew I was in the right place. So that was when the messenger left us. A lot of the old timers were really, sad, and I was sad. But they had taught us that all of us die, and I didn't have that understanding. I imagine that some of the older believers had, and I think and we used to say that I think a lot of the older believers said that the messenger was God, but we have been taught that the messenger was not God. Our minister, Benjamin, that was in Mosque 24 when I came in, lived with Master Farad Muhammad. He had a room in his house. He used to tell us about him all the time. And when he told us that story, he said he would stay in his room all the time. And his life, he said he never slept. Well, he would try to walk back and forth at night to catch the light out. And the light was never out. The light was on all night. He would come out. He would go to the grocery store. This is the God. He would go to the grocery store and teach Sister Clara, his wife, Clara, how to cook. And he said he would talk to him, or he'll go back into his room. And he rented a room. So I, in my little young mind, had an understanding that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad was not God, but he was a messenger of God. And he was like God to a lot of people, I think. But when I saw him in Chicago, it was like seeing God. It was the most beautiful feeling. And it's something that I can't explain. It's something that went on inside of my body, and I can't really explain the feeling, but I know that I had witnessed something very extraordinary, and I could not, explain it. But right after that, when the messenger left and people started to leave, and I got married in 76. So my husband was just graduated from Virginia Union. We were young. We were trying to figure out what was next. So we stayed a little while, and then he got a job in Lynchburg, and we lived there about a year and a half. But we didn't know Muslims. We didn't know. I don't even know if they had a temple then. It was temples then in Lynchburg, and we didn't connect. So with Muslims there, and so you don't connect. But I think then the nation was kind of falling apart. It was kind of falling apart. And people were leaving. I think we came back to Richmond, and we went to the mosque a few times, and we just noticed the atmosphere. Things were changing, and eventually, we stopped going. I got a little job in one of the little big department stores where we used to couldn't even go, and I was telling a story, and somebody came across the counter and had some non-alcoholic beer. I had never seen alcoholic beer, never knew they sold it. So I said in my mind, and this is how you see, I didn't just leave the nation. Me and my husband, we stayed home. We did, the right thing, but other things, if you go to a cookout, if you go somewhere, you're exposing yourself little by little, you're going, away from your teachings. So I remember that beer, that non-alcoholic beer was the beer. I used to buy it from Mill & Rose of the department store. I used to buy it, and then gradually that non-alcoholic beer turned into a real beer. So I gradually went back and just went back into the world. We divorced. We divorced in 83. We got married in 1976. I couldn't have children, and that was a result. I don't know if that was the reason, but that from that abortion, I had consequences from that abortion, that I couldn't have children, or it would have been very difficult. I had scar tissue of fallopian tubes, and so it would have been very difficult, if impossible, to conceive. And I don't know. I don't know if that was the reason, but we divorced. And after the divorce, I don't know. I did something. I went to nursing school. I did some things, but when you start drinking a little bit, then I started losing my family, my relatives, and I lost both of my sisters. I lost my grandmother. I lost the person that was in my life that used to be my soft pillow to stay, to get out of the madness. I went into active addiction. This was in the 80s, when crack cocaine and all of that came out. I was a part of that. I admit, well, we used to call it reefer back then. I think now they call it loud, they have a different name, but same thing. I always think it was better quality. But we back then we would do it and laugh and eat, and that's it. But I don't know now if what it is. But I remember me first of all just going around by myself. I used to travel by myself. I didn't want nobody to know what I was doing because I think I was getting ready to go into the darkness then. And I found some Jamaicans that I used to go around and get, buy weed. And then until one day I went to score and the police was all around the house. And so that was the end of that deal. So I had to find another way to do things. And that active addiction was very dark. That was during my 40s, from my late 30s until, I don't even remember my 40s. I really don't. It was dark. Active addiction is very dark. It's very cold. It's very mean. You can't go in acting like you're a sissy or you're afraid. And, I had to change into a whole new person. I didn't even know I had it in me, but I had to in order to survive. And I remember my brother telling me, if you don't learn how to talk to people, you're going to get your behind. I said, well, I'm not worried about that. They should know how to talk to me. But I really went, I went into to be another person. I always say I lost about 10 or 12 years of my life just in active addiction. When I was 48 and I got so sick of myself, I couldn't stand myself. I couldn't look in the mirror at myself. And I put myself, I don't have a record of jail time and all of that. And Allah has been with me. What has Islam done for me? Allah has been with me from the very beginning all through. I have been in some of the most dangerous situations. I have been in places where the police came and told me to just go. That was a lot. I said, my God. And so I at 48, I said, this is it. So I walked into rehab I put myself in. And from that date, that was 1999. That was August of 1999. So I am 25 years clean. And praise be to Allah for that. After that, after I got cleaned up and I started thinking, the Nation of Islam started coming back in my mind. It never really left. Because I used to have, periods of light. Say, this is not right. So I remember, and I did some actually positive things after I got clean. You see, because the messenger taught us to do for stuff. I bought a couple of houses, and I bought a house, and then I asked the lady who helped me. I said, "Well, look, I got a house." See, the messenger taught. I had something in my mind to do. I said, "Well, look, I got this house. What do I do now?" She said, "Buy another one." I said, "Okay," and that's what I did. So I bought a townhouse that I rented out. I've had 3 sets of tenants, so I know a little bit about, being a landlord. And I was gradually becoming back to myself. And I remember just having a friend at that time who got married. And see, I think he knew that I was getting ready. They were church people. And I just, I don't have nothing against church, but church just was not for me. I really didn't get it. And I went into a church, and I don't have nothing. I grew up in church. I loved the church. But I just didn't understand what the minister was saying. He was sweating and dancing all over the room, and I just didn't get very much from it. And that's when my last friend was a church. He was a church person, and he used to sing in the choir and all that. But I just couldn't get. But anyway, he ended up marrying one of the lady ministers or something without telling me, and that was the most hurtful thing. But sometimes I think he knew that I was thinking because I had started coming back to the mosque. I used to go, at times on Sundays I would go. But I remember that Saturday when they got married, I made my way to MGT class. I got to Sister Captain at the time. I said, Sister Captain, I am hurting. I wasn't hurting because it's painful when people, these people, I said, I got to get away from this. This is the most hurtful thing that I have felt. This hurt. And it's senseless. These people are cowards. They don't talk to you. They just do things. And I need a law. That was the only way that I got through that. And Sister Linda said, Sister Roberta, you come on back in here. You come back to MGT class and you get this and you get back into what you know. And she was trying to get me to sometimes, she wanted me to tell the sisters sometimes about my experience and all, but I don't know. I never really got around to doing that. But I did get back into class, and so here I am. But then the first resurrection, the first resurrection was beautiful. That was beautiful, and I call that milk because we were little babies. The messenger taught us that we were the women. The women were the mothers of civilization, and oh God, he taught us how to do for self. It was how we needed to build a nation, get our own schools, get our own land, just do for self, accept your own and be yourself. They had a little sign up in the temple that said, sun, moon, and star. The flag was life. The Christianity was the cross, death. It was beautiful. I never forget. I'm so grateful that Allah gave me the first resurrection. He gave me the basics of the Nation of Islam. So when that first resurrection, I'm in this second one when Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Look, we learned back in the first resurrection. I basically learned from the little tapes. We read the paper, Muhammad Speaks. I learned from lectures, but I didn't have a Quran, and I think the minister Minister Benjamin used to use the Bible, so we didn't have a lot of literature at that time to study, from. But I remember now in the second resurrection, this is beautiful. This second resurrection, I could almost. It's at a higher level. It's at a higher frequency. It's mathematical, because they used to say Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam. And that's the truth. The second resurrection, we're talking about actual facts. This is what is God, and this thing about God and the devil, which stuck in my mind then. We're learning, it just shocked me. It kind of surprised me when the minister of Arkansas said, and we're the devil ourselves. The devil, the Caucasian, is just a physical manifestation of what's inside us. So inside of us is that devil. So it cuts you down a little bit from that. We all that. And you know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
God, we the God, and then nothing. Because we are gods and we are the devil. And so that now is just truth. Minister Farrakhan is just bringing it all in full circle. The baby talk is becoming the tour talk. The baby talk is growing until the knowledge is just infinite. The message to the black man, when I read that, message to the black man is almost like a Bible to me. The message to the black man taught me a lot. I gave it to a couple of people as gifts because it's a lot of knowledge in that book. For All of America, those books. How to Eat to Live, book 1 and 2. Those books we didn't have back then. But those are the books now that we're really, we're learning from the Quran, and just beautiful teaching. That I thank Allah for bringing me through such torment. Sometimes I didn't know if I was gonna make it. I just didn't know. It was so dark. I just didn't know, but God knew, and He had my hand and brought me back. Just a little old broken old lady, broken, but I could get put back together again. And so I'm in the process now of just getting put back together again. The minister is teaching us just infinite knowledge. I think Master Farad Muhammad, who came to us in the person of Allah. I thank the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I thank the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for teaching me, guiding me, loving me into the knowledge of self, the knowledge of one God, the knowledge of one creation. And it's almost teaching me that I'm connected to everything around me. Sometimes I look at the wood, I look at the refrigerator, and I remember a lecture that Sister Tanetta had, and she said we came from the stars, and just how beautiful this teaching is. So we're oneness of God, oneness of creation, just a beautiful teaching. Now I wanted to just do this a minute because there's little personal things. I'm a caregiver, and I'm a caregiver of my mother. My mother had COVID in 2020, December 2020. She had lived alone for 20 years by herself. She was 95. And she stayed by herself. Well, she didn't go on a ventilator and all that. So she stayed in the hospital 5 days. When they was getting ready to discharge her, the doctor was kind of talking that nursing home thing. Well, I'm a nurse, and I said, look, no nursing home, but just I told him, I said, give me a day. Keep her a day. I'm talking to you right now in my kitchen. I'm in the townhouse that I used to rent out. Look, my niece was staying with me at the time, so she was in one bedroom. I had a little room that I used to call my office. I had a little desk and a little desktop computer. But I told him, I said, you keep her one day, and I'm going to make room for her. So my niece and we pull everything out of that little room. It's got a window in it, so it's a bedroom. And we pull everything out, and I brought my mother here. So she's still here. She's 99. She's here now. She's getting a little changing mentally and physically, but she is still here. And with that, it's a struggle. But with that, I myself went for a mammogram in December of 22, and in January of 23, they called me back and said they saw a little spot and they wanted to check it out. They checked it out, and it was about 6 centimeter growth from my breast. And so it was cancer. It was removed. And they also, when you have cancer of the breast, they like to check your lymph nodes because your lymph nodes, carry fluid. And I was also thinking about your lymph nodes. Because lymph nodes feed the immune system. And it made me think. I didn't think then, but I was thinking about little babies and how it's good to breastfeed babies because you give babies their immune system. Your immune system when you're healthy, carries some real protein, very rich protein. Protein go into your breast, which also probably affect your breast milk, your immune system. Everything is connected. So anyway, when they did the lymph nodes, no cancer. But sometimes those lymph nodes don't operate the way they should once they leave them alone, and mine didn't. And so you have something what is called lymphedema. And that's when the fluid just kind of stay put. It stay where it is. So it makes your arm might swell a little bit, your breast might feel a little heavy. But they got little things, they got little pumps, and they got things that you do. So I have to do that. Well, 2 or 3 times a week. It's a get the fluid going where it should go. Now, besides that, this is all with me caregiving. So Allah has been with me. This is all caregiving. I also had to wear hearing aids. Look, I way back in some years ago, I took a hearing test. I was in some people hearing setup was in a grocery store, Sam's Club, and you could get free hearing tests. So I said, I'll get one. And I did get one. And the technician told me that I had a little hearing loss, but that was some years ago. I didn't pay no attention. I hadn't been. But during COVID, when people had on masks, oh my God, and then with the social distancing, I could barely understand what people were saying to me. And the hearing was very, very bad. So I said, I'm going to see about my hearing. And sure enough, my hearing is moderate in both ears. So I do wear hearing. I don't wear them all the time. I don't know, because I hear. But when I'm in lectures around a lot of people, I can't hear everything, so I wear them. So some people don't know I wear them because I don't want you to know I wear them. They're in my ear, but I'm not like that, so you won't see them. But they're there, so I wear those. And so I've just been going through some things. I'm getting older now. So things are really happening to me, and I'm doing it, with it's Allah is with me, as my mother is getting older, and she's beginning to have a little bit more care. And I'm thinking real soon to maybe get a nurse in here, with me. I've been doing it for 4 years. So, but I think I'm getting a little, I think I better step back a little bit, take care of me and more, and let them, how to take care of her. So I don't know. I'm doing that. I'm wearing a hearing aids, and one more thing. I'm just my health. My health is just, I don't know. I sometimes I don't know if it's stress, because I do have stress, but I know that Allah is. I have to rely on Allah, but that don't mean that we don't go through things as we do, and I just go through them. I don't complain a lot about things. But some days I feel a certain way. Some days I feel overwhelmed. I feel, but then I come back and I think about it and say, Lord, don't put on you no more than you can bear. And I figure if I can handle what I've been through, I can handle anything. As long as I keep my hand. And I was thinking too about being this, how I can stay in oneness with God, and it was about prayer and obedience. And I was reading something in the Quran about being obedient, when you obey. And I wanted to read that. It's let's see. All right, I think it is Surah 4, Ayat 69, and it say, and whoever obeys Allah and the Messenger, they are with those upon whom Allah has bestowed favors from among the prophets, and the truthful, and the faithful, and the righteous, and a goodly company are they. So, and that's obey prayer and obedience, and sometimes I don't have nothing but prayer. I don't like to always go complaining to people, but sometimes I was thinking that people are gods, we're little gods. So sometimes when I'm here, I would like to talk to someone because when I went through active addiction, do you know that on those programs, and Allah gave somebody that Allah is in charge of everything. So He gave somebody the wisdom to do that program, that those drug programs and all that. And if you follow, if you obey or do what they say, you can get clean. Well, what they do is actually talk about the most ugliest things about themselves. They tell you about about their abuses. Some people have been abused by their father, their family, just their boys and girls, And when they talk about these things, it gets out of them and it goes to somebody else. Somebody else will share your burden. So sometimes when you talk to somebody else, you don't have to talk to the world, and I advise you not to talk to the world because people, you can't talk to everybody. But sometimes, you said talk to Allah, and sometimes I may see Allah in another sister, and I might want to tell this sister, today I'm just not feeling, so I'm not feeling it, and this and that, and she could tell me, sister, today I'm not feeling it. Be truthful with one another. That's one thing too about that program that Allah gave somebody is to tell the truth. Tell the truth whether it stinks. The stinkier it is, the better it is for you because the truth clarifies it. It purifies you. It just lifts things off of you, and you don't have to go through a whole lot of just being boggled up with a whole lot of thoughts and it's this and that and this and that. Give that burden to somebody else to share. And Allah knows, Allah is not spooky. I sometimes see Allah in another person. Not everybody that I would want to share everything, with. But when I shared this truth, when I first shared this truth on the Al Noor prayer line, that morning I felt relief. But I did that before, but it's been a while. See, that's how I got clean. I told on myself. I told about my lying, my stealing that I did, those things that I did that I wasn't supposed to do. You have to tell on yourself. Tell on yourself, and then yourself will get better. Anyway, those are the things that I just been through. I did tell you that. The last thing about the health thing, I got my eyes are getting a little bad. I went to get new glasses, and so that's why I am. So I've got a little pressure behind the eyes. So I think it's time for me to kind of step back. If you remember me telling you my age when I was in the 60s, so I'm not really, I'm not really a little girl, a young girl. So I'm growing older, and things are changing within my body. So Islam has just brought me from life, and look, it brought me from death to life, and then it turned around and brought me from death to life again. So it did that from the beginning when I first came in, which was death, and then from active addiction, that's death, and then back to life again. Islam has taught me its truth. The truth, what it has done for me is you can walk in truth. And I remember the minister saying, when you live within lies and falsehood, it damages the brain and it causes you, you don't function properly. So when you walk in truth, whatever the truth is, whatever it is, just know the truth. And if you walk in truth, when you know the truth, it lifts, it's free. And when I first came in the nation and all this stuff about Jesus on the cross and dying on the cross and all that junk and rising Christmas time and all that stuff, Islam just answered so many questions and things that I didn't know, and I walked around with a lot of knowledge. I'm a pretty young girl, and that's why I think that I don't know. I always think Allah was with me. I'm very young. I've always been a little. They say I don't know. A little strange. I don't know.
No.
A little something. I don't know what it is. But I've always thought that Allah has been with God has been with me for a very long time.
That's
And I wanted to tell you something about a shoe. When I was young, this is when I really knew that God. And I was young. I couldn't. My mother wouldn't let us go out without shoes, and I couldn't find my shoe. I had one shoe, and I couldn't find the other. She said, "Well, you just forget it because you can't go out till you can't go out with one shoe." And I was very upset. So I said, "All right." I looked, and I said a little prayer. I don't know. I said a little prayer. I said, "God, help me find a shoe so I can go out. Help me find a shoe." And do you know? I don't know what. I went right on, looked under the bed, and way back under the bed was the shoe. And I said, "Oh my God!" So I always connected that to God hearing me, and I was a young girl, so I always, believed in God and had some things. But Islam has brought me, desire to want to do for self, and desire to love your brother and love your sister. You gotta love them. We gotta learn to love each other. When we're learning things, we still gotta learn to love for what you want for your brother. Love what you want for your brother that you love want for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Those are things that we have to practice. And I remember we're in this farm now. I think everybody, nobody really know everything, and
That's right.
we're growing. We're growing in Islam, growing in righteousness. If you stay in this walk, you're growing in righteousness, but you can't grow outside of this walk. I think once you step outside, you're in death. But as long as you stay in the walk, just walk. Sometimes you might fall, pick yourself up, and just keep walking. Just keep walking. And don't pay no attention to what other people, just you. Keep focus on yourself and say, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I don't know. Islam is just it's a beautiful place to be.
Yes,
It's just a beautiful. I don't know where I would be at this time in my life. What would I be doing? I just don't know. But anyway, I want to thank you for inviting me on this line, and I don't know. I might have forgotten parts of my story. I don't know, but it's my story.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's my story, and so I thank you so very much. And with that, I'll give you the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Like some, man. And before we close out, I know Brother West, I know he had a question that he wanted to ask you.
Yes,
So Brother West, I'll turn it over to you so he can do the station ID first, and then he has a question for you, Brother West.
Yes, ma'am. You are listening to WHID-FM. What has Islam done for you? What has Islam done for me? Thank you for tuning in and spending your valuable time, because without you, there is no WHID-FM. If you have any suggestions, please email us at WHID1919@gmail.com. And family, also subscribe to WHID-FM on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. And next week, our guest will be, inshallah, a returning special guest, our brother, student minister David Muhammad of Muhammad Mosque number 15, who will grace the airwaves of WHID-FM next week on November 10th, inshallah. And he will provide a short presentation on the number 19 in the Bible. And afterwards, we are set to have a Q&A session. So family, make sure that you're getting your questions ready for our wonderful episode next week. And Sister Roberta, you really gave a wonderful testimony, and actually you answered a lot of my questions. But one question that I did want to ask you in particular is what you would say to the new generation of female youth to encourage them to become a part of the MGT, or what advice you would give to new MGT that may be having some struggles along their journey of being in the teachings.
I think, the only thing I could say is to just be yourself. Be yourself. If you're new, if you really be yourself, you'll find that you're a pretty good person. But if you that's what I found about drugs, because if you leave your brain alone, leave it alone. Know nothing. It'll think right. It'll think right. To the new person, the MGT has come in. Study, read. I like reading. Read, study. Ask questions. Do for yourself. Just learn how to do for self. Think about self. And girls that haven't come in the nation yet, you need to come in, build your own nation, and then don't stop going working for these people. Work for your own nation. And we got young people out here, got all kinds of talent and no jobs, and keep waiting for a job from these Caucasians, when they can come into their own nation and bring their skills, their talents. To young people are beautiful. They're beautiful, talented, smart, need to be guided into their own. It's coming to your own, be yourself. That's it.
Yes, ma'am. All praise is due to Allah. And my next question before we turn it back over to you, Sister Janine, I really wanted to ask you, with you being in the teachings for so long, you've definitely seen a lot in the nation, having the knowledge of the past and also the present, you being here now, what are your predictions for the future of the nation?
The nation is going to be beautiful. The nation is going to be beautiful, but I'm seeing it growing through the children. I see it growing through the children. We got some beautiful people and scholars and all. The future of the nation, well, it's grown from when I was, there. The future of the nation is to do our own, to get our own, is to build a nation of our own, and to have our own, and to police our own, have our own schools, have our own businesses, have our own land, have our own things. Our future is infinite. That's it. Thank you for letting me share.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And with that, we'll go to you, Sister Janine.
Thank you, Brother West. I just want to say that I have truly just enjoyed your testimony. A lot of times when we see people from the outside looking in have this perception that Muslims are perfect, or they got to get themselves right before they join the Nation of Islam, and just showing the transparency that you gave us, that you're going to go through trials.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, where you are, you're going to go through trials. So you might as well submit to Allah, and He can help you through those trials. So I just, want to thank you for that. And one question that I did have, you said that when you're going through trials, you talked about the beauty of being a first resurrection. What was the atmosphere like? I know you started off by saying you didn't understand why those people hated us so much. How impactful was it for the messenger of God to say the black man is God in that kind of time of Jim Crow and all that was going on? How impactful was that?
That was impactful. That was the beauty. That was the beauty of it. That was the beauty of it. But when they said that the black man was God, something sunk in me, and that the white man was the devil. Well, I said that's why he act like that. Back in the day, some of the guys, I mean, I never experienced it, but if you go in certain white neighborhoods of guys, they said white guys would spit on them and and stuff like that, and it was I don't know, they were the devil. They were the devil. They really were, and I don't understand. I just didn't understand. I remember witness sitting on the back of the bus a little while. So we never had integration. They would just get ready to segregate schools or integrate schools when I graduated in '69. So I used to ride on the back of the bus. They changed. They were eventually changed it. And then they had water fountains. One had black, one had white. Somebody had tore that down. We used to walk from Parker Field. But I remember on the bus, it used to make me ill. And the motor of the bus, back there, the motors of the bus was in the back of the bus. And the fumes from the motor used to make me so ill, so nauseated of it. And I was young. My sister said, I'm not going to bring you with me no more. You get sick all the time. But it was the bus. It was the bus. So I don't know if we were God, but we were treated pretty badly. We were still being treated pretty badly. So I don't know. When they said the black man is God, I know it's something special about us, though. I kind of know it's something special about us because we're good people, really. We're good people. We're good people. Once we get it, get it straight. But
yes, ma'am.
I don't know. We just
absolutely
messed up. Mm-hmm.
Praise be to Allah. And Brother West, I believe you have another question for our sister.
Yes, ma'am. I had a few questions. So, Sister Roberta, I wanted to know, what was your understanding of being a believer in the teachings of the Nation of Islam initially, and how has it changed over time since first joining?
Well, initially, it was being a part of something. It was something, being a part of something black. You know what I'm saying? It was black. It was something about black people initially. When I came in. And like I said, well, when you went in the mosque, it said it had something about death and life. Initially, it was about something about the teachings that were, it was, I'm just getting my thought. It was about being black, being in something that was about black people. They were beating the hell out of us. They were treating us like animals, When the messenger started talking about getting your own, it made perfect sense to get out of that. So now, when the minister is talking, now we talk about separation. See, they were talking about integrating then. Now the whole thing is talking about separating. You know what I'm saying? So initially, it was about being black, being, getting their own. But now it's getting more spiritual. It's being spiritual. It's doing the right thing. And, it gets to be spiritual as you, and even too, as you get older, you think more maturely, and you're thinking more about, other people. And so initially black, now it's spiritual, even though it was spiritual back there, but it was, we were on like a baby level. We were on a baby level. That's milk level, meat level. So we're on a meat level. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
I see. Yes, ma'am. You definitely did. And next, I wanted to know, what is your favorite Savior's Day experience, if you had to pick one?
What is
your favorite Savior's Day experience?
Oh, wow. Let me see. I've been to quite a few Savior's Day. But I'm trying to think. Oh. I want to say it was when I saw the messenger. I want to say because that was a Savior's Day.
Definitely.
Yeah, that it was like seeing God. That was like seeing God. I've been to quite a few Savior's Day, and I remember, but when I saw the messenger, that's something that always stuck in my mind. But everybody didn't get to see the messenger, and then I'll never forget it.
Right. I know you mentioned it earlier, so maybe
Yeah.
if you can give us a little bit more details on it.
Well, when he came out, see, I'm trying to think if I was in processing then, because it was in the early 70s.
Right.
And when he came out, we was in a big auditorium. And I was kind of young, and I remember him having the brothers was beside him, but it seemed like he had on like a cloak or something over top of him. He had a fez. On. And from the fez, it looked like diamonds. And it seemed like the diamonds reflected it was like an auditorium. And it seemed like they reflected all the room. It felt the presence, it felt like being in the presence of God or being so close to God. That's the way it felt. It felt big. It felt like you don't get those kind of feelings very often. By me being new in the nation, when I had heard him talk before on a lot of tapes. I had listened to tapes, but when I actually heard his voice, and he always say, "Salam alaikum." He say it slow, and he say it a little cracky. But
Right.
I can't remember the exact sermon back what it was about. But it was just to be in his space, just to be in the same room with such a presence, with a godly presence. It was just I was listening to the words, but I just was glad to be in the room with him. It's just a feeling that you can't quite explain. I don't know what it was, but it made me know that the Nation of Islam is real. This is real. This is big. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than you. This is godly. This is not a small thing. So and the longer I stay here, the more I learn. I'll never know everything. So it is big.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. And what year was that you met the messenger?
It was, and when I saw the message, it was that's what I'm trying. It was in 70. It had to be 71. It was like I got my ex. It's 70. It was 70, 71, 72. It was in that. It was in that area. Well, yeah, in the early parts of the 70s.
Right.
Early parts of the 70s. So, and it was in Chicago.
Right.
And so that was, and I'm trying to think of whether I was processing. I couldn't really think of it.
Yes, ma'am. And Sister Roberta, did you mention any how your family takes to the Nation of Islam, knowing that you've had such a dedication to it?
How do they think?
Yes, ma'am. What does your family think about the teachings?
Well, my mother, it's really my mother. My brother's one of my brothers was passed now. He used to go to the mosque himself sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
And he always respected Islam, though he didn't want to, commit. But my mother never had a problem. Even when I came in Islam, I lived at home. I was 19 or 20. I was 19. I never lived away from home. And I think I came in the nation. I lived with the sisters, and then I got married, and I lived in my own house. But I lived with my mother, and when I told her I wouldn't eat pork, I wasn't gonna eat pork, and I mean, she didn't have no problem with it. Anyway, I was big enough to cook for myself, what I wanted. And the messenger used to tell us, wash the pans real good, sterilize them pans that they use, clean them. He used to go to the restaurants. He used to tell the people to wash the pans and with very hot water. And, so my mother, she never really understood it. She never knocked it either, And then my mother is very strange. She was kind of strange. And she never really went to church. She was never, I don't know, she would make us go. And I had to ask her one day, do you believe in God? And she never talked God too much, And she said, yeah, I believe in God. And but she never taught God, but she never gave me no static about coming in the nation. And right now, and she's here. When she first got here, and I couldn't come to the mosque and because I had to care for her. And one day, when she was getting better, she was feeling better. She said, look, no. She said, I'm all right. You go ahead to your meeting. She called it meeting. She said, you go ahead to your meeting and go ahead. She said, I'll be all right. Don't let let you miss out on your life. That's what she told me. So she don't have no problem with it. She's just 99. Like I said, I don't know. She's never been too religious about anything. I never heard her talk a lot about God. I have to be truthful about that.
Yes,
but she's a good person. She lived to be 99, so I don't know. I'll leave that alone.
Yes,
right.
ma'am. Well, that's wonderful that she supported you either way.
Yeah.
What about your favorite one of the 7 units? We've had a lot of sisters say that they prefer cleaning or some prefer cooking, but I wanted to know which one will be your favorite of the 7 units.
I like sewing.
So
I like sewing. I like the sewing. As a matter of fact, I learned to sew a little bit. My whole family kind of sew. I learned to sew when I was in high school. We used to have home economics, and so we learned how to sew. I don't think they have it anymore. But my sister would make a dress if she wanted to go to a dance or party. She'd go downtown, buy some material on a Saturday early, and make her a dress and wear it to a party that night. So I had a lot of respect for sewing, because sewing you could do it, and some she'd take a simple dress, put on a necklace, and something, and something that she made. You don't see it everywhere. So I always like sewing. I like sewing. I really do. Yes, sir.
yes, ma'am. Well, that's absolutely wonderful. And I think that will conclude all the questions that I had for you, but it's definitely been a wonderful testimony that you blessed us with. Praise be to Allah. And with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Sister Janine, for announcements.
Thank you, Brother Wes, and thank you, Sister Roberta. Our audience really enjoyed your testimony, and a lot of times, people can shy away from telling their truth, but we definitely, like you said, the truth will, set us free. So
Yeah.
we definitely thank you for that. And for our audience members, we just have a few announcements before we close out. If you love what you heard today, and I'm sure you did, you are invited to study with the Nation of Islam to learn the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by his chief helper, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, by going to www.noi.org/go study. You can also go to NOY.org to look at weekly webcasts we have every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can learn about the history of the Nation of Islam, different lectures, series, like our sister mentioned earlier, that you can study from. Go to our website. And Final Call Radio, you can download it on all of your devices, take it with you on the go as you're doing errands, going to work, going to school, going about your day. There's nothing better to have in your ear than having the voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan while you're feeding on the truth 24/7, especially the times that we're in. Speaking of Final Call, the Final Call newspaper, you see the cover right there, Remembering Chief Ernie Long Walker. You can definitely get your Final Call paper from one of our brothers on the street. You can get a digital subscription at finalcallstore.com. And also, don't forget about our brothers and sisters that are behind bars, because as you know, they can lock them up physically, but they cannot lock up their mind. And last but not least, do you want a book that greatly showcases your child and their self-worth? Look no further than I Never Knew I'm All That. Book one. This highly anticipated book is a book that will affirm our children's needs, and definitely get away from those fairy tale books that they're trying to give our children. So definitely get that book, where you can get it on Amazon.com. It's written by our host, Brother Donald Muhammad, illustrations by Sister Amina Lay. And with that, also, Richmond, Virginia, Muhammad Mosque number 24. You can come hear the reality of God every Sunday by the student minister Tracy Muhammad, who is a local representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at the Hobson Lounge, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 801 Prince Hall Drive, Richmond, Virginia, 23224. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brother Wesley Muhammad, who will give us our Muhammad moment, and then we will close out in prayer. Brother Wesley?
Yes, ma'am. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I would like to greet our viewing audience with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Beautiful, beautiful interview and testimony today. We thank you again, Sister Roberta, for all that you share with us. As it has been stated, and I'll just repeat it, the chat was on fire this evening. Everyone really enjoying your testimony and your transparency, and being able to show what Islam has done and continuing to do for you. And regardless of the adversity, regardless of the things that you've gone through, you have still kept true and stayed striving in these teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So we thank you for taking your time out to share with us this evening. We also like to thank Brother West and Sister Janine for co-hosting and asking those questions as well, to add on to the testimony that she gave and being able to build on what she shared with us as well. We would like to thank Brother Donald Muhammad for putting together WHID-FM in this platform where we are able to share our testimony of what Islam has done and continues to do for us as well. We also would like to thank his wife, Sister Cynthia Muhammad, with all that she does behind the scenes to support Brother Donald and making WHID-FM a success. We could not go any further without thanking Allah in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad for coming and saving and finding that which was lost and bringing these teachings to and teaching the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam, the living and exalted Christ. And we can't thank them both enough for leaving in our midst a divine leader, teacher, and guide, the Messiah in our midst today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because it was not for those three well-made men, we would not have anything to speak of when it comes to Islam today. So we're so thankful and eternally grateful for them. We also want to thank our viewing audience as well for keeping this platform supported. We thank you every week. We tend to have a great viewership. And we appreciate you all for sharing your time with us as well and listening to the testimonies, sharing your comments, even in times when we have questions being asked. We appreciate all of the support that is done on live, as well as those who may watch the replay as well and share out the lives out to those that family and friends that they feel this will be inspiring to as well. So thank you for that as well. Our Muhammad moment tonight is actually going to be a clip from the Theology of Time lecture series by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. This particular part of the series is from July 9th, 1972. You can get this lecture and the entire lecture series of Theology of Time and many lectures by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at store.finalcall.com. Be sure to check out the website and get more of these life-giving teachings. So let's enjoy tonight's Muhammad moment.
So if I didn't feel like I wanted to teach, I should teach for come 300 miles and further from the East Coast, about 900 miles, and some from the West Coast, I suppose. I think there are. People coming from these long distances don't mean to make them for nothing. They want you to tell them something. And if you're not going to tell them something, get off the stand and let them tell you something. You know, my brother, I have learned to be human with people is to get friendship. You're going to be stern and tell them about the pitchfork that Satan's going to throw you in the fire with. You only get fright. But tomorrow morning you wake up, I don't believe that. No, we don't want to fool you. We're going to talk about some fire, but it's not the kind of fire that disappears overnight. It's the kind of fire that lingers around with you. And you feel it. So my beloved brothers and sisters, you take for instance that I have the Holy Quran, you're lying beside me. I don't have the Bible here with me. Can soon get it. We was never taught to read the Holy Quran by the white man. We never was taught that there was a universal religion besides his that was called Islam. He never did talk about no other religion but Christianity. And I want to say, brothers and sisters, that if God made Adam and he waited Adam's children got about 2,000 years old, and then he sent to teach them the right religion. I said, God put himself in a very ugly thing. Why, the people could force him to say, why did you leave us without a for all that time? You think these things. 2,000 years after Adam, before ever that he sent Jesus with the right religion. Just think over that. What kind of God was he? Now he said this is the best one. And it's that if you believe in Jesus and Christianity, then you will go to heaven. So what about all those people before Jesus was born? Where did they go? Just think over these things. What kind of God was that created the heavens and the earth and then would not create for man a good religion until he gave birth to Jesus? Just think over these things. I don't have to but just think and reason over. Would God be so evil that he would let us live here all that time before ever he would make us a good religion and a good man? He said Enoch was a good man. What religion did Enoch have? If he was good, let's think over that. He said Moses was good. What kind of religion did Moses have? Just think it over for yourself. He said Moses was good, that he sent him into Egypt to bring out Israel from bondage of the house of Pharaoh. Oh, well, then, what religion did he preach to? Now, he didn't talk by no religion. The prophet said he brought Israel out of Egypt by the hand of a prophet. But what kind did he carry there? They said Pharaoh didn't have no religion. He worshipped of whatnot. What did Moses worship? And what kind of religion did Moses offer Israel? Have you ever thought of this? He still had to wait 2,000 more years for Jesus to be born. Did Jesus have a religion? Answer to yourself. Is it a religion? What was it? He said that he didn't come to change the law of the prophets, but to fulfill them. What was the law of the prophets? We want to know where we're going to, where we're headed to. Since the white man have rose up among us and claimed that he has the right religion. I want to know, Mr. Devil, who you think that you could fool in the way of religion while you're blinding the people's eyes to the knowledge of the religion of the prophet. You know, I love to get after this devil.
All right, family. With that, we'll close out in prayer. Attention prayer. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rahman-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, family.
We have been that